Welcome to In the Flow, where we explore how marketing leaders leverage operations to eliminate chaos and capture opportunity. I'm Anthony Welgemoed, CEO of Ziflow. Today's guest is David Robinson, Marketing Ops Manager at Canyon Ranch. David, welcome to the CEO series. I'd love to just hear about, your experience. What is sort of a day in the life for you at Canyon Ranch? If you can just tell me a little bit about, what you do and what you guys do.
Yeah, so I'll start with what Canyon Ranch does. So Canyon Ranch is a hospitality and lifestyle company. We focus on holistic wellness, where our customers come to one of our destination resorts, which are very highly rated. We just got Michelin 3 key ratings in
That's
our
amazing.
Woodside Resort and our Tucson property, and we got 2 keys in Lenox, which is in Massachusetts. And so it really has taken off since we got those ratings from a creative element and creative aspect. We've been pushing a lot of, various offers. We've been pushing new events and programming at all of our properties. And because of that, it has made the marketing team very active and involved. Not that they weren't active before, but the speed and agility with which we have to move now, due to our competitors pushing out similar programming to us, not fully because they don't have certain elements of programming that we have, mainly medical, right? We have full medical facilities at our resorts, which is pretty unique in the wellness space, from a luxury destination element. But it's a really transformative experience for our guests, and storytelling, which, as we all know, is the keys behind marketing, and why we're here, to attract guests to us so we can help change them, is really, really transformational. On multiple different occasions, I've run into previous guests who have said the Canyon Ranch has actually changed their life.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
I was in a hotel at a conference last year, and I ran into the keynote speaker of the conference, and I was like, "Hey, how you doing? Great talk today." And she's like, "What do you do?" I was like, "Oh, I work for Canyon Ranch." Typically, when people hear Canyon Ranch, they're like, "What is that?" You know what I mean? They're like, "We've never heard of it." It's like Marriott people have heard of, Hilton people have heard of. The Canyon Ranch is this beautiful entity that is really, underknown, relatively speaking, to other hospitality brands. And we do have that ability. So whenever people come to you and say, "I've heard of Canyon Ranch," you're like, "Tell me more," right? Like, tell me
That's
more
so
about
great.
it. And she was like, "Canyon Ranch changed my life." And I was like, it changed your life? She's like, "It more like saved my life." And I was like,
Wow,
that's,
that's a really great story, yeah.
it's inspiring, right? And so she
Yeah.
came to one of our properties. She learned how to meditate. She learned how to eat right because we have full licensed nutritionists on staff. She was able to meet with some of our therapists, right? Because we have licensed therapy on staff. She was able to take some health services where we will actually go in and do a DEXA scan or a bod pod to understand your body makeup. And then you meet with our provider afterwards, and you go home with a full playbook on how to like change and become a healthier, better version of yourself. And so she visited our property, went back to New York, and it was a fast paced lifestyle. And she was like, within a week, put her condo on the market and moved to Denver, and has been in Denver happy as can be for the past 30 years. It's crazy.
That's amazing. So, I mean, how long do people typically then stay at one of your resorts?
Typically 4 to 6 nights is typically
Okay.
our timeline. So in Tucson, it's a little bit longer. It's about 5 on average. Linux is more of a weekend property, so it's like 3, but you still get the same experience no matter where you're at.
So, you were mentioning that you have to sort of cut through the noise of all the other competitors, all the other hotel brands, et cetera, and, you know, get in front of people and just get known, if you will. How do you guys do that? Because, I mean, I'll be honest, it's similar to Ziflow. We have customers, or you meet someone at a conference and you're like, "Yeah, we use Ziflow, we love it." I spoke to someone yesterday and I go like, "Yeah, they went into another brand, in-house creative team," and they're like, "Yeah, they got Ziflow, we love it." But most of the time it feels like, yeah, we're always trying to cut through the noise and get known. So how do you guys do that?
So we take a few different approaches to that. We are very active on social. That's
Okay.
one of our main areas of attracting new guests.
And is that social ads or is it social posting or like conversations?
It's both. It's not social conversations as much like podcasting or live to X live or whatever they call it. More social posting and performance marketing, where we run it through Google and Facebook and all that. So yeah, we have a heavy reliance on email as well, and we still actually utilize traditional advertising in some situations.
All right, like print or radio,
Yeah,
perhaps.
not radio, more newspaper and magazine, heavily focused on magazine for the most part.
Okay, so obviously multiple channels. You mentioned volumes increased, the amount of market or amount of assets you need to produce. I'd just love to know, just from your point of view, what does your process look like? I mean, do you run different campaigns throughout the year, or you have sort of the always on marketing, and then you run campaigns separate to that? Just sort of just explain how it works in your marketing team.
Absolutely, yeah. So we have all of it. We have constant campaigns that we're running throughout the year to really focus on the storytelling of Canyon Ranch. It's so voluminous in the amount of different things that we offer that we need to really make sure that our story for our customers or potential customers is very clear and on what they're going to get when they come to Canyon Ranch. We do have that running full year round. And I guess the way that that works is substantially changed since I came on board on the marketing team, back in August, right? And then we have these seasonal campaigns that will run, which, might be fall campaigns or a holiday campaign or, a summer campaign, which is setting on top of our ongoing storytelling about the brand, which really just adds an emphasis to why you should come and what you're going to get when you get here, right? Because whether you're talking about outdoor sports, whether you're talking about, getting a CGM, which don't ask me the exact nomenclature of what that means, but
Yeah,
it's
I'll have to look it up after this. So
yeah.
yeah.
And long story short, you attach something to yourself and it tells you what spikes your glucose and what
Okay,
spikes your
yeah.
blood sugar and all that. And it teaches you what you can and can't eat specific to you, right? What you're most impactful to. So trying to bring in physical activity in the outdoors to a hotel room to a medical experience and explaining that it can be life changing is why we have that different tier, right? We want to keep the
Different, yeah.
story the same, but we want to highlight the awesomeness, for lack of a better term, of each of our properties around different seasons. Because Tucson's going to be more of a winter destination for most, because the cold weather people want to go experience the hot weather, and Lennox is going to be more of a summer destination and fall destination because it's not as hot as Tucson in the summer. And you get the fall leaves changing. We're in the Berkshires, so you have a lot of great concerts at Tanglewood, which is a historic musical venue there. So it it really does layer on top of it, and takes a I've learned, substantial amount of planning and organization, which is what our new systems and new processes, which I help spearhead for the department, have really come into play.
Brilliant. David, let's start with the team. How's the team structured? Do you use agencies or do you do it all in-house? Just like love to know how the team's structured.
We don't use agencies as much. We do have some independent contractors that we'll use, but we are very structured. Even though we're a smaller team relative to, Fortune 500 company, right? So we have our chief marketing officer, then we have our different channel leads with small teams under each. So you'll have our, digital, which covers email and performance marketing and, all things web for the most part. And then we have our creative team, which is our designers and our copywriters for the most part. Then we have me and my team, which is our marketing ops team, which is a lot. It's a lot for we're a relatively small company, but it's a so important to continue telling our story. That is why we focus so much on it.
I'd love to sort of dig into the actual process of how assets are produced. So, yeah, let's take a campaign. I know you said all the planning and the storytelling, but yeah, just like quickly take us through what it sort of takes, like step by step, because I think that's the thing we find probably that changes the most between different marketing and in-house creative teams is just how they get things done. So I'd just love to know like how you sort of put it together and how you produce these campaigns.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think it's important to understand what we were doing versus what we're doing now, if
Great
that's
idea.
helpful,
Yeah.
right? So just to level set, I came in August to marketing, right? I used to
Mhm.
be in corporate ops, and I think you're going to love this. My title was the process excellence manager, is what my historical title was, right? I'm an accountant.
That's
I'm a
great.
very analytical brain, and I'm focused on control, right? Because I used to audit, so internal controls are my strong suit. What used to happen is we had Workfront, which was a good tool. I don't know that we were on the modern version of Workfront, to be fair. But we were a very traditional department, right? You had two project managers that basically were the gatekeepers for everything that happened within the department, right? They ticked and tied and created tasks manually. They were the ones to upload all proofs for any asset that was created to the system. Everything pretty much goes to review with our CMO, any asset from a major campaign. When I came in, I realized that, there was some frustration not only amongst the marketing team, but amongst, the people that rely on marketing, our essentially internal customer base. And it took a long time to get something through the funnel because everything's a priority, right? Everything's priority to everybody, and nothing's priority to anybody. And so people were going around the process, right? And that's your first sign of an issue, right? And so when I came in, I brought in Asana to help with our project management tool, right? To make it quicker. And I democratized project management. I don't know if that's a good term or a bad term, but it's stuck,
It
and
sounds pretty good.
I've
Yeah.
gone forward with it. And what
Yeah.
the intent behind that is that I no longer am a bottleneck being in a traditional project management role, and my team is no longer a bottleneck, right? So we have built automations, which is one of the main reasons we chose Ziflow, actually. To whenever a request comes in, we do a quick vet of the request, of the brief, to make sure that we have all of the necessary information for our creatives, whether our copy team or our design team, to give them enough information so they don't have to go back to ask that question. However, we get a lot of requests, and the democratization piece of it comes in when we do give them the flexibility now to go directly to, whoever is requesting if they're a frequent requester, right? And if it's a standard common request and they miss something, they don't have to go through us to go back to it.
Which it did before, I assume. They went through the project managers. Yeah.
Everything funneled through the project, which in
Mhm.
turn, two people for all the hundreds of projects we have going on simultaneously delays us. And so that is one of the bigger changes. We've given more autonomy and empowered our creatives to really get the questions directly to the original person who has the answer. Because I'm just a middleman, right? I look at project managers, not in every situation, right? They do have a purpose and value, but as for the ticking and tying as middlemen in some situations. And with Asana mixed with Ziflow, we've now automated everything from task creation to assignment and time for the most part. It's pretty cool what we've done.
Brilliant.
And so a request will come in, we vet it, questions get answered. Designers and copywriters work together collaboratively to make sure that the copy needs are supporting what the design team has in mind from a future asset perspective. And then they are the ones, which is another huge change, which has saved us a ton of time, to upload into Ziflow, which is one of the things we love about Ziflow. It's so user friendly, and there's not a whole lot of choices right on the screen.
Yeah, that's great.
The
Yeah.
hardest thing you have to do is if you're uploading a web document, hit the live web versus the standard, picture of the screen.
Static
So
one, yeah.
yeah, that's the one we miss the most. But because we built workflows into the review templates. We haven't gotten into stages just quite yet, but that's our next phase. It gets auto sent to all the people that need to review it, which includes our CMO. And sometimes we'll get medical needs, right? Medical team will need some collateral for an event we're hosting, right? Like we host a menopause event three or four times a year. And so there's really specific departmental collateral, right? Or if it's a larger, massive campaign we're running that talks about more of the brand story, we bring our CMO on earlier in the process based on the workflows we've set up with Ziflow. And the user experience that Ziflow has now versus what we had with Workfront, our teams love it. They love being able to go direct to source, quick answers, quick information. And most importantly, whenever our CMO goes in and says changes required or approved with changes or, rejected even, that we trigger tasks in Asana to auto populate and be auto created that are specifically tied to the work product that's being created. So we have a single source of truth for everything, which we love. It's all linked in one task and it's all connected to Ziflow. That change in methodology, two simple changes, in my opinion, the democratization approach to give more people ease of access to marketing with getting the proof to the right end user, end approver, right? At the end of the day, whether it's our medical doctor, whether it's our GM, whether it's our CMO, eventually we're getting to our CEO. He's not there yet, but we're making valiant efforts to get him involved in certain
Great.
things that he likes to look at, um, to, just do things quicker. And I know podcasters love stats.
I do too. I'm a software engineer by background, so
Oh,
I'm also
really?
very analytical, to be honest.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
you're a process guy.
yeah, I am. Yeah, very, very much so.
Yeah. And so our timing on, I'll just use email as an example because it's definitely what we do the most of and it's most prevalent. If it's urgent, right, we can now push out an email in 2 days versus before with Workfront and our previous processes, it would take a week and a half to 2 weeks to get a full email out. And the value, the impact on our business is substantial. Like everything Canyon Ranch is pre-booked for the most part, right? It's not like a Hilton down the street or a Marriott, where you just have a lot of, oh, I need a place to stay for the night. I'm going to come in, get my night's worth of sleep and move on about my day. I am intentionally coming to Canyon Ranch to get value out of the experience. We're experiential more than just utility. And so we
Makes sense.
know relatively far in advance what our occupancy with a decent amount of certainty is going to be about a month out. We put on all these events, right? We have something called Enchant, which is a spa and beauty festival, that we bring in all the experts in the spa world and beauty world. And we host this, very intimate experience for, our customers, our guests, where they learn about health or skincare. They learn about, different beauty techniques. And it's a great experience. It's a great program. But hypothetically, if we're a month out and we don't see the occupancy that we're expecting, instead of waiting a week to send out an email to targeted customers, we can do that in 2 days, right? So we don't encroach our booking window and we have a higher probability of overall success for the program we're putting on.
Yeah, I can only imagine that makes a huge difference, and it's weird when people think about it that you go from that week and a half to the 2 days. If you see the occupancy rate 3 weeks to 4 weeks in advance, I mean, that buys you a week, essentially, another extra, whatever, 25% or whatever it is,
Yeah.
to get those bookings filled. That's really interesting.
We're still, I would say, early in how I think we can get a little bit more advanced, with, me learning marketing, a little bit better. Two, with just time, because we do have such a volume with a smaller team, that we're pushing out.
Do you know the volume that you do? Just out of interest, do you know sort of what you do per week, per month? We could probably look in Ziflow, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we probably push out 5 to 7 emails a week in reality.
Mm.
And then social posts are much, much larger. That's actually my next
Okay.
area I'm gonna tackle with, streamlining a little bit. So,
Streamlining that, yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because the thing is that also the other thing that people, or you don't realize initially is that if you have an email sitting there that takes a week and a half, someone's chasing it. You have the project manager, someone's looking in the inbox. Have they replied? Have they replied on the correct version, etc.? So even though it's 2 days at a cut, but it's also all that thinking time or
Right.
distraction time, if you will, that's taken that you're saving on.
Yeah. And just be clear, when it's priority, we can get it out in 2 days. We don't typically shoot to get an email out in 2 days, just because we like to give our teams time to our creatives to think and do their creative work and provide about more valuable product. But to your point, the amount of clicks is less. Like my goal is to get people to click less and ask questions outside of the process less, right? So less ad hoc calls, less email, less Teams chat. That is an unbelievable time consumption element to our corporate world. I think across
Yep,
across most
totally agree
companies,
with you there. Yeah,
things get lost,
yeah,
things just get lost.
yeah. That's why we're doing these interviews is trying to teach people because I was with with a prospect the other day. It's an agency, and I got the question, "Why should we use Ziflow? How does it actually save you time?" And I was a little bit blown away. I was a bit surprised, and I shouldn't be because it just saves you time in so different places. But it's not just Ziflow, but it's having a process and a structured process and the right tools. And like you said, reducing the clicks, reducing the go find the email, reducing the noise. It's just all of that. And I agree with you. I mean, we sort of come from it from a Ziflow point of view on a UX side where we want you to click as few times as possible and have the distance of the mouse travel as little as possible. That's at the micro level. But when you look at the process like you do, I mean, it involves so many people and it's vital. I mean, it's give more time on creative things like that, telling the story.
Absolutely. Yeah. And with Canyon Ranch, our emails are a big piece of our puzzle, right? But we also have performance marketing. We also have social posts. But, that's your standard, like, external communication to attract guests, right? There's this whole other side of the puzzle for us, which is internal collateral. Thinking about a chant, it's a huge festival, lots of brands, lots of touch points on property. And our properties are hundreds of acres. There's so many different things you can do that every step along the way for something like Enchant, you have to have custom collateral created for that as well. One of the huge wins of, Asana and Ziflow and the combination of how they work together for us is that we get our spa team, we get our programming team, which is the one who puts on all this stuff, involved in the communication. So we have that single source of truth. We add them to the proof within Ziflow, and the user experience is so easy, right? We love that. It's just, here's the link, click it, and ask me if you have any questions, rather than being like, hey, let me set up a training 2 times a month. It's going to take an hour to update you on how to utilize this tool to support you. It's like using iMessage, right?
Yeah.
You just know how to use it now, and the updates that come, you just figure it out because you're used to the experience, and the experience will change drastically on any given time. Slow changes throughout. So it's been a
That's
big
great.
win.
Brilliant. No, I'm really glad to hear that. David, you mentioned earlier that now you're able to bring in the medical team and other teams onto the proof so they can review it. Yeah, how did it work before? How's it better now? Yeah, how did that process change?
Yeah, great question. So to highlight it, we push out a recipe book, right? It's called Fastest Meals Imaginable, where we highlight all of the custom recipes that Canyon Ranch nutritionists, you know, put in the book, and we sell it, right? And give it away in a lot of situations. I mean, it's like a 250-page book, right? And historically, that would go to Workfront. It would be funneled through the project manager or set of project managers, and the amount of follow-up and, tracking down, whether it's a formatting issue or we missed a piece of a recipe that got cut during the print proof. I mean, it was outstanding for about 8 months whenever I came into the process, right? And it stayed open. It's a huge project, right? But historically, the experience for the nutritionists to get into the book and into the proof and leave comments, I I mean, it just took time. It was a little clunky. It was a little frustrating to track the various proof versions associated with the book. Because you think we're not book editors under any circumstances at Canyon Ranch, but it's something that we are trying to support our nutritional teams by getting it out the door with, being cognizant of costs, right? And so once we really picked it up on our team and started working on it, our designers and copywriters were able to get at least the first draft, out the door in about a week and a half to print so we could meet the start of the event and get it printed and delivered. And the main process change, again, is just democratizing the process, right? I am not the gatekeeper anymore to connecting our nutrition team with the people actually doing the work, which is our designers and our copywriters. And because the experience was so easy, on the second round of the proofing version, we were able to get it done. And we took an external contractor or an independent contractor, just sent her the link, proof this, make these edits based on the comments within Ziflow. She had it done in about 2 days. And our nutrition team went in the next day. We're able to easily click through and identify what comments were made and what edits were made. And if there was any open questions, they answered them on spot. And, now the book is almost off to print. Because we had enough time in our priority list, because we have, streamlined so many other elements of our department, we could focus on it and push it out the door with input from, people who are not marketers, people who are not used to proofing software, people who are not in that world. They're in front of guests all day. They're not, true tech people, right? And just knock it out quickly. It was very impressive. And kudos to our designer who did it. If she watches this, she did a great job.
That's really good. The one thing you mentioned a few times is bringing the design and the creative team closer to let's call them the business owners or the stakeholders, and bring them close together. Again, what I've seen quite commonly is that they keep the project managers because they try and sort of ring fence the creative team because they're scared of exposing the creative team to the stakeholders,
Mm-hmm.
and then they want to control what's being communicated so the creative team doesn't get annoyed or the stakeholders don't get annoyed. How did Canyon Ranch go through that process of saying, okay, we're going to bring them closer? I mean, that's quite a culture change, or yeah.
It is.
How'd you manage that?
It's a great question, right? And it doesn't come without its challenges. I'm not going to lie to you. Our biggest gatekeeper or gate right now is the assignment of the task. Because Asana is and Ziflow as well are so user friendly, and you can essentially mold these tools to function however you want them to function, right? It does expose us to risk of people assigning tasks to our creatives. Whenever we took this path, we did see some situations where people that work with us frequently that are not in our department are putting in a task, assigning it directly to our designers or copywriters, and putting a due date of tomorrow or the end of the day today. We had to be very cognizant of that. And so what we did to solve it was, communicate with our designers and copywriters. I talk to them every day and we say, if you ever see this happening, you have to tell us, right? Because then we have to make sure our
Then you can
controls,
step in.
right? We step in
Yeah.
and make sure our access controls in the projects within Ziflow are set up correctly. Because could be a gap, we do our best, but gaps happen. So that's the funnel, right? Everything runs through that funnel, but once you get assigned the task, we have seen, especially with our email team and our social teams, getting direct access to the designers and copywriters to make sure that the intent of the social post and the message behind it is being properly communicated and understood. It really just saves probably 2 days worth of work at the end of the day, because if they come to me, it's going to be, a couple hours before I see the email probably, or, it just takes time.
And there's also then you need to translate whatever they said to the creative team and then back. Yeah, it just adds another hop in the process.
Right. And I could misinterpret what's being said,
Yeah.
miscommunications happen all the time. This helps reduce that. I like to look at our way of doing this, because it is a cultural shift. It's not common. what we're doing here. And it is a test case, essentially. And, in some situations, we let the reins off a little too much. Not gonna lie to you. What we've empowered our design team and our copy team to do is come to us when that happens, right?
Yeah,
Like
that's great.
knowing that because everything is a tomorrow task, right? Or it feels like it, because everything is notification heavy. If you don't have notifications set correctly, you will drown in like email notifications with Teams notifications and, Ziflow notifications within the
Ziflow,
system.
yeah, we are
Yeah.
working on that to make it even better. Yeah, so
Yeah. And so it can get it's
yeah,
that it goes back to that point of like when you feel like you have a lot coming at you, it's easy to get overwhelmed. And it's a personality, eh, you know,
yeah,
difference, right? Some people do, some
true.
people don't. And that's the beauty of the user experience that you guys have created is we can control that.
Yeah, and I think the fact that you put trust in the teams to manage themselves, I think that is just it's key because it just makes life so much easier getting work done. And also they feel, as you said, empowered. So they can talk directly to the stakeholders or the creative team. It's just a much more fluid process. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Are you looking at AI tools at all? Anything AI creative come in yet
The
out of
hot
interest?
topic of the
Yep.
hot topic of
Yeah.
the year. Not specifically yet, right? Like Asana and Ziflow both have some AI functionality within them, but we haven't taken that step. I really want to make sure before we go that path, that we really understand, the big nuances, the most common nuances that come and can, associate, our change to solve some of the bigger problems that are reducing our efficiency. Where I would like to go though, with AI, is essentially we upload our brand standards, right? Like our essentially look and feel of our brand, and beyond just the color, beyond just the font of the text. Really be able to explain that we're a luxury hospitality and lifestyle brand into AI, because things like Enchant have a completely different look and feel from a marketing asset perspective than Canyon Ranch as a brand. They are both very luxury, very lifestyle driven, but they look different. So if we said, you know, here's what our designers created, compare it and provide, high level comments relative to the brand look and feel, you could have some unnecessary discrepancy, right? That just adds more manual work to go address what AI told us. But I'm sure there's a way to do it. I just don't know.
It'd be like a sub brand under the Canyon Ranch
Yeah,
brand. Yeah, so you
exactly.
do like sub brands and so on. Yeah, I mean, where we're looking at saving time at the moment is the sort of the two aspects. It's you upload version one, and we do some auto reviews. So you'll have a checklist of the basic things, like you said, the font, the visual identity for that particular campaign or the asset. And then the other thing that we are working on is comparing version two with version one. So when you talk about the book, we have some customers that have hundreds of comments within a proof because it's like these large pieces of content, and they have teams who compare V2 with V1, and they go through each comment to make sure it's been implemented. So we working on automating that so we can just auto resolve essentially those comments, say, yep, it's been done. So
Oh,
interpret the
nice.
comment, see if it's been done, and then you can say do a AI check on it rather than humans having to work through that. It's all those little pieces, little areas where it takes time for someone, and it's probably not the most fun job. It's like almost like data capture. It's like, I have to check someone's work. It's a bit boring. So we try to work on these boring aspects first.
I love that. We would definitely test that out when that functionality comes out. So,
Yeah. I mean, just on the side, I mean, you can sign up to our early access program. I can send you the link. We have an AI early access program going at the moment. So, John, our CPO, and the team are running through that. So it will work with customers and then take their content, and we'll start building these checklists with you. And then we'll, train the model, test it out, and see how close we can get it to what you need. What we found, interestingly enough, is the brand side has taken a backseat. It's more these mundane checks that people wanna get automated as soon as possible.
yeah, I think the small things, right, would, you know, take this word out here. By the way, our CMO loves the highlight text element and add a
Yeah.
comment to
Oh,
that.
that's
She
great. Yeah.
loves that. And
Brilliant.
I think being able to go through that takes the second review off of her, right? She does her initial review, take out 5 words and adjust this image slightly. And, you know, the other common things we get, right? That's a lot of it. If we were able to get her from or have her get comfortable with getting out of the second or third or fourth review for the smaller changes, relatively smaller changes, I mean, I think we would be interested.
Well, hopefully we can get that done this year. So I'll keep you updated on that. David, you mentioned CMO. You came in August. It's a big process change. I'd love to just understand sort of the background to. Were we already with Canyon Ranch at the time, or did you join them? Yeah, did the CMO sort of sponsor this project? Just how did it come about, and how did you sell this to the CMO to change this process that's probably been used for quite some time?
I had been at Cane Ranch for about 6 years, and I have had a varied career at Cane Ranch. I started in our audit department. I was running that for a couple of years, and COVID happened, and I got pulled into the corporate ops department and was heavily focused on process and efficiency for a few years. And then my previous boss was like, "Hey, marketing, they have a lot of work going on right now. They need some help." So it's kind of a jack of all trades back in the old role. Um, do you mind helping them and getting some of their higher priority items pushed through? And I was like, absolutely, love to do it. And so when I got into, this kind of part-time corporate ops, part-time marketing role, it became very apparent that things did take a little bit longer than, we would have liked, right? Due to the process issues and all that. And I was having coffee with my now boss, our CMO, and she was like, "What do you think?" I was like, "I think it would be great to see everything that you have open right now in one spot, be able to understand task assignment and workload very easily, and you know allow the teams to work a little bit quicker." Just for reference, it took a day or two before we made this full switch to get an understanding of all of the open work and the tasks that our creatives and were assigned, right? So it was a huge effort just to understand the work volume. So it wasn't quick, it wasn't easy, you know, basically. So I think I might have a solution. And she said, go for it. As long as it works for the team, then I'm good with it for the most part. I worked with our creative director, who's also relatively new to the Cane Ranch marketing department, and, basically put a roadmap together and put a test case together. And there we go. Now we're here. So it's been a very good change, I think, personally. Obviously, it doesn't come with its challenges. Like any change is going to have your learning opportunities. But we're constantly addressing those opportunities. And because we are a luxury brand, then everything external has an impact on revenue for the most part, either positive or negative. For all of the bigger campaigns, all of the, more high profile um, items that we're pushing out, our CMO does like to see those. And even before we made this change, understood the value and really like had it on her list to look at, all the big ticket items that go out, which is extremely valuable, right? Because at the end of the day, we are a team, and ensuring that we have quality product that we are pushing to market is bar none, right? That's the most important thing that we can do. But on the other side of that, we also have to be good to our internal customers,
Yes.
which are the ops team, right?
Mm.
And that's where I'm kind of in a unique world, right? You don't see people that were a CPA go into ops, then go into marketing. Like that just doesn't happen.
I think you're probably one of the only people in the world that's gone that
Yeah.
sort of a career path, which is great.
It's been a great experience. I've loved it. And the thing I love about Canyon Ranch is we do really inspire the brand's, mindset, right? Wellness, right? To become a part of life. We have great benefits when it comes to visiting our properties and really getting to experience what Canyon Ranch is, because you won't get it until you've done it. Wellness is a key term, right? Everybody's coined it to their own way of what it means, right? Sometimes wellness could mean a pillow menu, right, at a hotel. Sometimes wellness could be a fitness gym at a hotel. For us, it's holistic, meaning mind, body, and spirit. We're marketing the human, right? What we can do to make you a better person and be more fulfilled by changing lifestyle and coming to us and learning. The world is your oyster when it comes to storytelling around that, right? And how to tell that story, because it's not a specific product, right? It's 200 products which encompass thousands of service options into one seamless, story that people will realize that, oh, hey, this could be kind of cool. I've never heard of it before, but it sounds great.
It's unique and challenging at the same time because you have this great story to tell, and it's like how to best tell it because there's so many different ways to do it, right? It's like, you've got voice of the customer, so telling the story from their side. It's yourselves telling it, and just all the various ways you can do that. And yeah, I think it's like cutting through all the other noise, and it sounds like you've got something very unique here that you can't just copy. I mean, it's a whole experience, as you said, and that's great.
One area that we talk about a lot, right? We have our internal nomenclature and our external nomenclature. And it's easy to go down the path of trying to, fit an internal nomenclature term, right? Whatever we might call our medical department, to how can we communicate that to our guests when it's more than just a doctor. You might have a spiritual element where our doctor is working with one of our mind professionals they're working together to give you an experience that you'll never have. I mean, it's hard to find, right? There's a lot of wellness companies that are similar to us that have a spiritual component. They might have a nutrition component. They might have an outdoors component, and they, do a pretty good job of coming together and trying to give that holistic experience. But because our offerings are truly bar none, when you look at it from a holistic perspective, that story is so unique and impactful that, being able to succinctly and easily explain who we are and why we're here, it's fun. It's fun. It's a totally different world than corporate ops, worrying about how housekeeping is working or our food and beverage team is working.
That's brilliant. No, David, I really appreciate your time today. It was absolutely fantastic. I'll be honest, I'm quite keen for a holiday right now. So.
You're welcome anytime. Just let me know.
Thanks for joining us, David. I'm sharing insights from around the marketing, tech, and operations industries on how marketing and creative teams can get more done together.